Welcome everybody to Suburban Stone Age. This is Rebecca and I wanted to give you a video tour of Suburban Stone Age. I've never done this before for you guys, so I thought it'd be fun to take you along and show you what I see every day living here at Suburban Stone Age. So this is the front yard. It's about 6:30 in the morning. It's the prettiest time of the morning. The sun's just coming up. This is what you see when you come out the front door. So with the front yard, my philosophy was pretty simple. But what I wanted to be sure that I did was introduce a lot of edible landscaping, natives, and wildlife-friendly plants, but do it in a way that was neighbor-friendly. I didn't want to put a bunch of edible plants in garden boxes and make it look like I was having a garden in the front yard. I think that that would be out of character with the neighborhood. And I think that people who are new to edible landscaping or not 100% familiar or sure that they're going to like something new and different like that in a front yard, I thought that they might be turned off by something that looked too much like having a garden in the front yard. So what I chose to do instead was to, over the years, gently incorporate more and more edible plants into the landscape. And every year what we would do is we would dedicate a portion of the front yard to a new project that involved edible landscaping. So we kind of eased into the situation. For example, in 2011, I believe it was, we removed the rose bushes from our front planters and put in vegetables. In the year after that, we did the parkway here and had fruit trees and many other edibles in addition to medicinal plants and natives. And then just this year is the year that we removed much of the lawn, and you can see that with the bark here. We removed much of the lawn and did our most major renovation yet. So there's only this small patch of lawn left right now. I left some lawn because, again, I wanted to transition the expectations of my neighbors and other people unfamiliar with an alternative type of landscaping. I wanted to leave a little something familiar so that it wasn't such a shock. And so the green grass does that. It's also the pathway. That's all the high traffic areas were left as lawn because they get walked on the most and could handle the traffic. So, you know, from the back of our car to the front door is this big wide path so that when we're coming into the house with armloads of groceries, we've got a clear, level space that's safe to walk on and not impeded by anything. And lawn does a great job with that. Also, my husband actually really likes lawn. He's a great sport and lets me do most anything I want out here, but I leave lawn because he likes it. And, you know, you gotta meet people halfway. Also, with the lawn, I've chosen to put a lot of clover in there. So, although it is lawn, there's also, you know, nitrogen-fixing clover. I seed it with that. The clover can take the mowing. It also produces blossoms that the bees enjoy. So, I'm still, you know, kind of moving into different plants, not just lawn, but lawn alternatives that still help me in my goals. So this is the south side of the front yard, and in it we have loquat trees. You can see a nice row of calendula. We have, those are zucchini coming in, baby nectarine, tree spinach, strawberries. We have a bunch of lavender for the bees. That's thyme down there. Hummingbird sage. Lettuce in the corner there. This here is our nectarine tree. We've had it about 3 years, and it's finally getting big enough to produce full crops for us, which is wonderful. We come out front in the next probably 3-4 weeks, and we can begin to harvest. There's a peach tree in the corner, walking onions by the pagoda, sunflowers are hanging out, nasturtium over there. So there's a lot going on in this space, but the main thing to understand about the space is that there's a lot of edibles here that are sort of snuck into the landscape that look pretty, but also provide food, whereas the lawn didn't do that. And also this bark here is a super thick mulch. So my strategy in this space was to remove the lawn, which required, resources and gasoline to mow, didn't produce anything edible, and used a lot of water. And I put in a greater diversity of plants, but also mulched the space heavily with a thick layer of bark. That stuff's about 2.5 inches thick. And what will happen is when the summer comes and it gets super hot, that layer of mulch is going to seal moisture into the soil. It's going to be a very hot, very dry year, and we got maybe 4 or 5 inches of rain this year during our rainy season. We're in a terrible drought. So my hopes are that by changing from the lawn to the bark, we're going to be able to conserve water while still being able to enjoy our little edible landscaping. And that's something that we would not be able to do if all this space was lawn like it used to be. So this space here is the north side of the lawn. All that nasturtium right there, that's nasturtium, broccoli that's gone to seed, cilantro that's gone to seed. That whole bed is going to get ripped out soon and replanted to new vegetables. But a couple of years ago, this used to be just ornamental roses. And like I mentioned, every year we try to take a space and reconvert it to something more useful or beneficial for us. And that was one of our first projects, to take the rose bushes out and put in vegetables. So that's what we're doing there, and I've been faithfully composting and building the soil in that space, so it's pretty good shape right now. It's just time to move it on. I had to wait until the broccoli had gone to seed, but it has, so I'm going to save the seeds and then rip that out. This is a new little spot right here. Those are orange trees, and there's a fig there that got weed whacked to death pretty much, but it'll come back. And then the borage there is all volunteer. I like it though, and the bees like it too, so I leave it and just compost it. So the idea with this space too, again, is to just less lawn, more food. There's a lot of food tucked in here. There's, again, thyme, there's strawberries there. That plant with the white flowers right there is stevia. You're also looking in the center here, beyond the twiggy little dwarf nectarine, is a California fuchsia. So in the front yard as well, I do have many native California plants. I thought the native California plants are super important because they are able to take our climate, our drought. Also, wildlife goes crazy for them. They're super productive in terms of feeding native bumblebees and native hummingbirds. They really like them. So I like to incorporate native plants into the landscape as much as possible. We have a volunteer nasturtium. They've been coming up everywhere. And comfrey. You can see comfrey down there. It's combined with the native hummingbird sage. And that's kind of gilded under this nectarine tree, which is pretty much my most favorite tree on the planet. The nectarines are so sweet, and it produces so abundantly that, and it's an early producer too. These nectarines will be ready in a couple weeks. So late May, and I'm starting to, I get the best nectarines from this tree, so I'm super happy about that. Here we are, front yard again, but this is just a different view. You can see all the lettuces that have come up. These guys are all volunteers. Their parents lived over the winter here in the parkway, went to seed, and this spring when the rains finally came, all the babies grew up and are here. So I have red leaf lettuce, romaine. Those are the two main ones, and they've done so well, and I've eaten so good. So many salads from this lettuce, so I'll probably save seed from them. They're really slow to bolt. They've just been super healthy, no pests, super productive. And I didn't even have to work to plant them. They planted themselves, so what more could you ask? We also have chamomile, calendula, there's some comfrey, strawberries, more lettuce, lavender. So there's a lot going on in this space. And and the tree is an apple tree. It's a Fuji apple. So there's a lot going on in that space, and it changes all the time. So as soon as the lettuce is gone, it'll be replaced by something new. We get a lot of use out of this space throughout the season. This space here is the north side of the parkway. Last year, the parkway was our target for renovation. This used to be all lawn under here, and right now it's in its late spring clothing. This is such a great space. It turned out so well. Right now, it doesn't have as many blooms as it used to. I mean, it was going crazy with the sweet peas and the California poppies, which are native plants. I had a garlic in here. There's butterfly bush. That's a pomegranate that you see right here. A persimmon. I also have native plants down by where the stepping stones are. Stepping stones were recycled concrete too, which was a really fun project. So this space changes every season, and it's wonderful to see all the different colors and the flowers come and go. And there's food in here too. I have peppers, there's lettuce, all kinds of stuff. So it's been just a delight, and I like to watch. Sometimes I'll just see strangers and they'll slow down and stop when they're walking by and look at the plants with curiosity, and people have really seemed to enjoy it. I have had people stop me and tell me how much they like it, and that means a lot to me. So the Parkway's been a great ambassador for lawn alternatives. It's just so colorful and fun, and people really seem to enjoy it. Here's a little bit farther down on the Parkway. That's a native sweet gum flower. There's native buckwheat in there, which is kind of getting overgrown. I got to get that gum flower gone. I think it's called sweet gum. Well, whatever, gum flower. But there's garlic that needs to get pulled up. That's yarrow, is the yellow flower blooming. Bush lupin, which is a California native, an important host for butterflies. Nitrogen fixer too. That right there is a persimmon. Thank you. Also we have echinacea behind it. And that little guy right there is another pomegranate that's just younger. So the space is actually not 100% built out yet. More is going to get planted in here. We have milkweeds tucked back in there for the monarchs. It's coming out of winter. We're going to put a few more plants in there for summer, but still, I really enjoy the space. And, you know, there's a lot going on here, so I don't feel the need to work my soil too hard all the time. It's nice to give it a little bit of a rest. So I'm not overly anxious to plant every single square inch of this space. By fall, it'll have more, but for right now, I've got other projects. So, and this certainly has been very pretty this early spring. So that's the Parkway for you. Okay, this is the south side of the front lawn. There's the other nectarine tree. It's got nectarines on it. They should be ready soon. Underneath it, it has a nice little guild of comfrey and romaine lettuce, and there's salvia. I forget the species on that salvia, but I'll know it when I see it. There's hummingbird sage, red leaf lettuce, all volunteers. Weeds. I don't know the name of that weed, but it's got to go. Lavender behind it, some thyme, strawberries. This lettuce here, this is a volunteer sunflower. I've left it there to see what happens. It's kind of another thing I enjoy is I have so many seeds from food plants hanging out that sometimes I get a volunteer and I like to grow them out and see what they become. As long as it stays well behaved and doesn't block pedestrians from using the sidewalk, we'll see. It's doing so well. We'll see what happens to it. This is my little pagoda. Let me move past the sunflower here and I'll show you. I like pagodas. I put little candles in there at night and it looks cool. But the most important part is the water. And there's a solar powered fountain in there which isn't working right now because the sun's not shining on it, but that gives water for the birds. So that's the real purpose of this display right here, is to give the wildlife a source of fresh water to come and have on hot days or whatever. We have sunflowers. I mean, there's a lot going on in this space. Again, this space is brand new. All the bark you saw was just put in January. So we had the lawn ripped out in January, and all these plants, I put in the lavender, but things like the lettuce and such, those were volunteers. Onions I did. That's a jalapeno pepper. More strawberries, comfrey. So this has all been growing in since January. It's doing super good. And then in the background against the house, you can see artichokes, you can see kale. There's butternut squash in there. That space needs a little attention. It's looking a little scraggly, but I'll get to it. Just when I rip out the other bed, this bed will come up too. And it's usually planted in with, pretty heavily planted with vegetables. So that is the tour of the front yard. And I'll see you around back. So welcome to the backyard. This is the space that 3 years ago I started back here so I could have privacy and learn what I was doing, and I already had a little garden put in, but you know, when I started converting over to edible landscaping and stuff, I started back here. So this is what's going on, and I'll take you and show you the different sections. Okay, the backyard is kind of split into 3 zones. This middle section here is for my Stone Age stuff. This area used to be entirely lawn. No trees, no plants, no nothing. It was all lawn. This January I had the fire pit put in, and then I left the ring of lawn, and that's because I really feel that people need some habitat too. I didn't want to take the entire yard for myself and turn it into all food. I think there's a little bit of a balance between having edible landscaping but also having somewhere open and cool for kids to run around and for my husband to sit and enjoy. And my son and I love to come out by the fire pit in the evenings and talk. And so this last little bit of lawn was left here on purpose to be sort of a community space. And lawn does a really good job of that. And my thing with the lawn is I don't mind lawn as long as it's lawn on purpose. Lawn because that's just what we do, and we don't understand why we do it. We just do it because that's what everybody does. Lawn without purpose doesn't make sense to me, but this lawn definitely has a purpose, and it's much smaller than it used to be, consuming less resources and water while still being useful and purposeful. So that's why I chose to leave it, and we got a lot of use out of the space. So this is the center area, the fire pit zone, and this is where I do a lot of my Stone Age experiments too when I'm out here playing with fire or whatever I do. I like to hang out by the fire pit. So this section over here is my new garden. Again, all this area where you see the lawn stop and the other plants begin, the garden plants, the vegetables, that all used to be lawn, but I ripped all that out in January again, and every weekend I'm trying to install a new row of garden. So as you can see, I did the zucchini first. We have onions and kale, and over there I'm trying to get broccoli going and bok choy. Today's project, and I'm smack in the middle of working on it, so it's kind of messy out here, but this bare spot here I'm going to rip up and put in another row of vegetables. Probably more organic kale. I love that stuff. And here's the garden. Over here is the compost pile. Composting is such a huge part of how, you know, agricultural age stuff and how I keep my soil healthy. I try to keep as much material from the yard in the yard as possible, and I recycle that through composting. So it's the hardest work that I do. I'm not kidding. It requires a lot of labor, but it's so important, so it's worth it. So under this huge straw pile is a big batch of compost that has been turned twice and is now cooled off and ready to be spread into the garden. So yeah, here's my messy dirt patch too. I gotta clear all these weeds out and whatever, but you can see my progress or lack of progress. But anyway, this is how I'm building out this new garden space that used to be lawn. So I just chip away at it little by little. It's been a major project, and it consumes most of my free time on the weekends, which I don't mind. I'd rather be actually doing this than probably anything else out there. So it's fun for me, but it is a lot of work, and it's probably going to take till the rest of summer to get it completely built out. But once it is built out, boy, is it going to be nice. I'm already eating food out of it, so hey, you know, I didn't get that when it was lawn. So over here is the old garden. My dad built this for me probably 15 years ago. He put in this raised bed, and it is by far the oldest soil on the property. In it right now are cilantro and then my Swiss chard that's gone to seed, and this space needs a little attention, which it will get as soon as I'm done putting in that last row of garden. So I've kind of let things go on this side for the moment, just because I've been able to, I've been working so hard, and I have other options now. So this isn't the only patch of food. I have the front yard, I have the garden that you just saw to the right, and I have this space too. So I can give this space a little bit of a break, let some of my favorite plants go to seed. It's okay. But by the end of summer, it'll be planted back out with something new. So here are my little chickie ladies. I've raised them from chicks since February, and they're getting bigger every day. I just put in that big fence to keep the dog out. We've had terrible luck with the dog, but hopefully this will solve it. We just had that giant white vinyl fence put in too, probably 2 weeks ago. So this whole space used to be a nasty invasive vine, and I couldn't use the space because I couldn't fight that vine. But with the fence, we were able to remove the vine, and all this space now is going to get turned into something along the lines of raspberries and fruit trees. Right now it's sort of cluttered. I've been cleaning up after that big project, and this is as far as I've gotten. So yeah, it's a mess, sorry, but eventually what will happen is I will put in trees. And just so you know, this giant straw bale assortment like arrangement here is my composting system. So you saw the pile in the garden, that's temporary. Usually what I'll do is I'll take these straw bales and I'll mix my compost here. So this is enough room to have a pile accumulating, have a pile that's been turned once and heating, and then have a third pile that's been turned twice and almost ready. It's being finished off and ready to go back in the garden. So that's what this whole arrangement's all about. It's nice to have enough room to do a serious composting effort. And then here's the rest of the garden. This is my bird fountain, which the wildlife absolutely loves. So I try to put a source of water in the front and the back for the wildlife, and boy, these birds use it like crazy. They love it. We have an almond tree, we have avocado. You can't see it right now, but there's another persimmon right behind the bird fountain. They have comfrey at their roots. I'll probably put other things in their little space, but I've been just so busy with the other garden, getting these garden rows in. So this is the main gardening section. Okay, so we're back under the patio cover, and I'm showing you right now the oldest section of the yard. This area is dry. It doesn't have irrigation coming to it. So we use this space for a lot of natives or a lot of drought-tolerant plants. And plans may change for this, I don't know, but right now it does well with the natives. We have fruit trees here. We have an Anna apple tree. Those are some native sages. A peach tree. This is my old man peach tree. This guy's been here 11 years. The gazebo is back there where I hang out and enjoy the view, and it's beautiful. Not as much food here except for the fruit trees as other places, but it is good for native plants. There's some deer grass, some lion's tail, some echinacea, or echium. So it's a good dry garden. May change, but it's nice to have a pretty drought tolerant spot too to see what does well here. Oh, there's a couple citrus, a lemon and a navel orange. And finally, I wanted to show you the roof. The solar panels here are a really important part of suburban Stone Age. That's where we're using information age technology to be more sustainable. These panels provide 65% of our household power. And I'm telling you, we've had them for a year and I absolutely love them. Problem free, no maintenance. Well, that's not true. We have to rinse the dust off periodically. But it's a really good feeling to know that you can contribute to sustainable energy right here on your roof. And it's been actually financially advantageous too. Our electric bills have dropped significantly. It's been a win-win all around. So there you have it. That's suburban Stone Age. This is how it looks from the street. This is what people see when they come to the house. You can see there's a typical Southern California neighborhood with lawns in the front yard as far as the eye can see, but our landscaping plans are a little different, and boy do we love it. It's beautiful. It's interesting, it's different, it's pretty good with the water. We get food out of it, and people really seem to like it. So thank you for your time today, and I'm so glad to see you, and we'll see you around soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.